355, Article 356, Article 357. All these three articles are very important for constitutional emergency or President's rule or state emergency. Majorly Article 356. B.R. Ambedkar told Article 356 will be a dead letter of the Indian Constitution. Article 356 will be a dead letter of the Indian Constitution. Article 356 was used and misused many times, particularly when two opponent parties are ruling. In the center one party, in the state other party. Then center, by using its high power and dominance, can ask the president to impose president's rule in the state on the report of the governor or otherwise. Report of the governor is not mandatory for the president's rule. On the report of the governor or otherwise, if the president is satisfied that the state have been failed in protecting the constitutional machinery, the state is not being carried forward in accordance with the constitutional machinery. What do you mean by constitutional machinery? Constitutional principles, constitutional values. What do you mean by constitutional value? Tolerance, rule of law, democracy, secularism, human rights, basic fundamental rights. All these things comes under constitutional values. If the president is satisfied that the state government is not or unable to protect the constitutional values, if the president is satisfied that the state is not being administered in accordance with the constitutional values, if there is a failure of constitutional machinery in the state, then the president can impose president's rule or constitutional emergency or state emergency. Once the emergency was imposed by the president, it should be accepted by the parliament within 2 months. Once the emergency was imposed by the president, it should be accepted by the parliament within 2 months. For every 6 months, it should be accepted from time to time. But after 1 year of imposition of president's rule, the election commission should certify that the state is in such a condition, that elections cannot be conducted there. Then only continuation of state emergency is possible. Then to the maximum of 3 years. For state emergency, there is only 3 years period. Before that, beyond that, you cannot have state emergency. To the maximum period of 3 years, you can have state emergency. Beyond that, you cannot have state emergency. And except in case of Punjab, you cannot extend state emergency beyond 3 years. 6 months at a time. And parliament has to promulgate again and again after 6 months. After 1 year, the election commission should certify that elections cannot be held. The election commission should certify that election cannot be held. Okay, this is state emergency. And as you all know, many governments have used this president's rule as a weapon, political weapon. Many governments have used this president's rule as a political weapon. For this, there is a famous case, landmark judgment called S.R. BOMMAI versus Union of India, 1994. S.R. BOMMAI versus Union of India, 1994, also called as Ayodhya. In the Ayodhya incident, what all happened in this case? S.R. BOMMAI case is useful in writing the answer relating to secularism. From Article 25 to 28 of the Indian Constitution, we have a concept called secularism. What is secularism? Secularism means all religions are equal. state should treat all religions equally, and secularism is a basic feature of Indian constitution. In which case it was said S.R. BOMMAI versus Union of India. Whenever you are writing secularism article, you should write secularism is a basic feature of Indian constitution. Whenever you are writing an answer in basic structure theory, you should write secularism is considered as basic structure. And more importantly, whenever you are writing an answer about president's rule or constitutional emergency, you should write a in detail discussion of the case. S.R. BOMMAI case, you should write in detail discussion. What is the discussion you should write in the case? See, when president's rule was imposed in many state governments after Ayodhya incident, the then Congress government at the center led by P.V. Narasimha Rao imposed president's rule in various non-Congress ruled governments. Okay, and almost all the non-Congress ruled governments were dismissed wholesale, en masse. As a group they were dismissed. And all the state governments went to Supreme Court saying that imposition of president's rule is not correct. Then in that case, Supreme Court gave a detailed judgment. I will go little slow, take notes also. S.R. BOMMAI versus Union of India, 1994. In S.R. BOMMAI versus Union of India, Supreme Court gave detailed judgment and guidelines with respect to Article 356 of Indian Constitution. Article 356. What is that? Say. Secularism is a basic structure of Indian Constitution. Secularism is a basic structure of Indian Constitution. If a state government, secularism is a basic structure of Indian Constitution, and if a state government fails to protect, secular fabric of the country, that means the state is not being ruled. In accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. The state is not being ruled in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So, what is the first thing which you should remember? In S.R. BOMMAI case, the Supreme Court told secularism is a basic feature. If the state government fails to protect, that means the central government, that is the president, can satisfy that there is a failure of constitutional machinery in the state. Next, there cannot be wholesale dismissal. There cannot be wholesale or en masse, ENMASSE, dismissal of state governments. There cannot be wholesale. See, you cannot dismiss all the state governments at a single go like that. 8 state governments, 9 state governments, you cannot dismiss the wholesale dismissal of state governments. Next, the court can verify the material facts. The court can verify the material facts based on which the president's rule is imposed. The court can verify the material facts based on which the President's rule was imposed. That means the court can call for facts on which President's rule was imposed. If the court feels that the facts are concocted or if they are with malified intention, the court can say the imposition of President's rule is incorrect. So, the court can verify the material facts based on which President's rule was imposed. And if the court feels that the material facts are concocted with malified intention, the court can restore the state government. Okay. The court also said, the Supreme Court also said, imposition of President's rule and dissolution of state assembly cannot be done together. The Supreme Court also said, imposition of President's rule and dissolution of assembly cannot be done together. See, assembly dissolution is a serious step. For political considerations sometimes, to gain political mileage, the President will order imposition of President's rule and state assembly dissolution together. That cannot happen. In fact, if possible, floor test can be conducted to test the majority. If the court thinks that if the imposition of President's rule and dissolution of assembly done together with a malified intention, the court can even ask for restoration. Of legislative assembly. The court can even restore the legislative assembly. There can be a judicial review on the imposition of President's rule. So, this is also very important. Center also should give a time bound, or center can give a warning to the state and ask for the reply of the state at least 1 week before imposition of the President's rule. Center should give some time frame to the state to reply about the misdoings in the state. This is also very important. The court cannot question the advice given by the Council of Ministers to the President. The court cannot question the advice given by the Council of Ministers to the President about President's rule, but it can question, it can ask the material facts based on which President's rule was imposed. The court cannot question what advice the Council of Ministers, that the Union Cabinet gives to the President about the imposition of President's rule, but court can question the material facts. If there is an improper use of Article 356, and if the court feels that there is an abuse of power, then the court can provide remedy. REMEDY. So, this is a detailed judgment of S.R. BOMMAI. Whenever you are writing Article 356, you have to write this judgment. Okay. In S.R. BOMMAI case, the court said, secularism is a basic feature of Indian Constitution. If the state is not being carried in accordance with the constitutional machinery, the President can impose President's rule. Or the court can verify material facts based on which President's rule was imposed. The court will not ask what advice was given by Council of Ministers to the President. But court will definitely see the material facts based on which the President's rule was imposed. And the court also said President's rule should not be imposed for political considerations. There should not be misuse of power. And the court also said central government should give a notice to the state at least 1 week with a 1 week time limit for replying. With a 1 week time for replying. And most importantly, wholesale dismissal of state governments. En masse dismissal of state governments should not happen unless it is so warranted imminently. And finally, imposition of president's rule and dissolution of assembly should not be done together. Imposition of president's rule and dissolution of assembly should not be done together. If the court feels that it has been done without using proper logic and constitutional principles, then the court can even restore the legislative assembly. This is S.R. BOMMAI's judgment. Clear? So, Article 356 and S.R. BOMMAI judgment. Next.